probably one of the biggest inhibitors of presence are the subconscious stories that we are running about who we are and how people perceive us. And so much of my work is really focused in the realm of the relational, right? Communication, community building, relationships. And so I think that what happens is we have these stories that are present in us that we're unaware of. Not enough. I'm not smart. People don't see me as successful. I can't be myself. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough experience. And so we have all of these like limiting beliefs, right? That we are constantly looking for confirmation of these stories because the brain seeks certainty. And so if we have these stories that have been there forever, right? I'm not that type of person because I grew up this way. Then what happens is we are constantly looking for evidence to back up that story. And so what we're doing is we're looking externally for something to confirm the story or to prove it wrong, right? It's like, oh, I'm not enough. I need someone to like me because if they like me, then I'll be enough. If I have that business success, like then I'll be successful. And so I think that what really keeps people from presence is fundamentally the focus on the external versus the internal. It's that when we are looking externally to validate our experience, to make it enough, like we are constantly going to exist in a state of anxiety. Because anxiety, like if you look at the Latin root, anxietas translates to not knowing, right? And so while we can't know, I don't know how you're feeling about this conversation. I could make an assumption about it, but fundamentally I don't know unless I ask, right? Mm-hmm. But what I do know is what's my experience. And so when it comes back to presence, we can always come back to presence when we point our attention inwards. And I think that very few people provide us with a map to do that internal exploration. And so why these principles of curiosity, authenticity, and presence? Like I can know, like, what do I want to know about you, right? That's here right now. Like I can know, what am I feeling in my body? Like right now I feel elated. I feel like a lightness in my body. I feel like tingles in my shoulders. And like, what am I excited to talk about? I'm excited to talk about this. I'm excited to talk about flow states with people. I'm excited to talk about men's work. I'm excited to talk about being a dad, right? Like these are things that there's no not knowing in that because that's real. That's present right now. And so fundamentally, I think what keeps us from presence, especially presence with people, is that we are looking externally rather than focusing our attention internally to what we can know. And once we are aware of what our experience is, then it just becomes a practice of getting out of the way, of allowing that to be, right? And I think it's like what we talked about with your podcast, probably before we were recording, of like, you had an idea of what this thing needed to be, and you realized that like the process for you internally was like, wasn't that fun, right? It wasn't exactly what you wanted. And so then you were just like, well, what do I want it to be? What's exciting to me? And then you did that and you turned the entire process into, it's like Alan Watts has a great quote about presence. And he says like, the greatest conductor is not the one who plays the fastest. The purpose of dancing is not to finish. Like the point of dancing is to dance, right? And so if we can turn the entire process into something that we love, like which like if we can just like come back to our experience and know that that's enough, then everything becomes so much easier to be present.